So, hello, I'm Johan Rask. I'm the CEO of Insplorion. I'm here to talk about our products and sensor technology for accelerated transition to a sustainable future. In particular, I will talk about hydrogen and hydrogen sensors. Briefly, the agenda, overview, the hydrogen opportunity, our solutions and products, the team behind it, obviously, and a summary as to why you should invest in Insplorion. This is a snapshot of who we are. So funded as a spin-off from Chalmers in 2010, based in Gothenburg, about 16 full-time equivalents. A couple of those are consultants. And the core of what we do is a technology called nanoplasmonic sensing. Without going into details on that, it helps us to understand on a nanoscale what happens close to or at the surface or on the surface. We have two business areas, so that changed from a year ago. We've focused our business. We have research instruments. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And we also focus a lot on hydrogen sensors, where we see a significant opportunity. And I will talk about that more as well, of course. So research instruments. This is where it started, basically, in 2010. The company has built and constructed a handful of instruments. And those that you see up here are the S2 and the for life science applications, and the M8 for battery research. It's been around 125 publications published using our technology and our instruments. We also use this in-house as we look at new application areas and experiment. Right now the business is mostly selling into academics, so researchers, universities, professors. Our aim is, of course, to mature that into more industrial applications where the decision process is faster and the volumes are higher. Moving on to hydrogen. So why hydrogen? Pretty simple answer. It's a huge opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity. Hydrogen will play a critical role in our transition to sustainable society. It's even foreseen that in 2050, it will account for 10% of the global energy consumption. That's a lot. I'm not going to give you numbers. Many terawatts and terawatts. It's projected in the next 7 years that $500 billion will be invested in the value chain of hydrogen. And there are massive initiatives. 20 to 30 different governments have issued their own strategies for how to go on to hydrogen, led, of course, by the US and the EU, and China's not too far behind, for that matter. And the good thing with that is that anywhere along this whole value chain of hydrogen, either you produce it, you store it, or you use it for some application, you need sensors. But why do you need sensors? Well, there's two answers to that. One is safety. Let's see if this one here works. Yeah. So this is a schematic picture of the value chain of hydrogen. So it's produced over here. I realize the text is a little bit too small, but you have electrolyzers, for instance, where you split water into oxygen and hydrogen. You store it, you transport it, you use it in different applications like fueling stations, transportation, trucks and buses, airplanes. The problem with all of this, it's not going to happen if it's not safe. And hydrogen is great. It's very explosive, everyone knows that. It also doesn't smell, so you can't smell it if there's a leak. It is also the smallest molecule we have. So if you give it the tiniest chance of sipping out, it will, and it will cause a leak and potential damage and safety issues. The other reason why we will need sensors is efficiency. With billions and billions of dollars invested, if you have downtime or yield issues, it will significantly hurt bottom line and profitability. And we want this industry to be profitable because that will also further accelerate the transition to a sustainable future. So how do we do this? Just going back, slightly to technology, still simplified. But basically what we do, we place small nanodiscs on a substrate, can be glass, for instance. These small nanodiscs are made of palladium alloys, and when they come in contact with hydrogen, we shine light through, and we detect on the other side what's happening, and we detect the changes, and we correlate that to the hydrogen concentration. Very simplified. But what does that lead us to? Well, it leads us to a sensor with some clear benefits. First of all, it's very specific to hydrogen, so even in the presence of other gases. And it's a well-known secret that many of the sensors out there that call themselves hydrogen sensors are actually not specific to hydrogen. They measure a collection of gases. It's obviously also very fast. The disks help with that, actually. And you need speed if you want to make the right decision and avoid accidents or safety-related things. It's also not dependent on oxygen. This is not something that's talked about a lot, but actually, a lot of the sensors out there today, they need oxygen present to actually work and to measure. And if you think about that, you actually want to have your hydrogen installation as much as possible, if you can contain that in what we call an inert environment, so no oxygen. That's actually a good thing, because if there's a leak, well, there's a reduced risk of safety concerns. But you still want to measure, of course, if there's a leak. That is where we come in. The optical, so this is an optical method. It's good from a safety perspective, of course, because there's no electronics in there. But even more importantly, it also allows us to remote read out through fiber optics. And we have the flexibility to tune the disks for different environments and different measuring needs. So where does this take us? This takes us to the product concept. So you see 3 categories. On the left, you see leak detection. Basically, you want to measure if there's hydrogen where there should not be hydrogen. The other part is process monitoring. You want to measure if the hydrogen concentration is within specific limits, so you run an efficient process. These two come in 2 variants. One is for atmospheric pressure. One is a little bit more sturdy, so it can take either sub-atmospheric pressure or very high pressure. And the third category is our remote readout capability, and that, of course, can be used in either leak detection or process monitoring. So what's our strategy? How do we take this on going forward? We really want to work with the customers and prove our technology in their applications. There are different applications out there, but we want to work with the customers, prove it in their application, because then we know there's interest and there's money on the table. From an application perspective, when we think about leak detection, we look across the value chain, because the application will not be real if it's not safe. So leak detection across. When it comes to process monitoring, we know that hydrogen needs to first be produced before it can be used. So there we look closer to the production than downstream. We're not holier than the Pope on that, of course, but that is how we think about it. And of course, we want to work with partners to get faster into the marketplace. There, of course, is a fabulous team behind all of this. I will not go through all of it. As you see, there's a heavy weight on the technology side, led by Elin Langhammer, our CTO, and Olof, our CPO, Chief Product Officer. Elin is actually one of our founders of the company, and both she and Olof have been with the company for more than a decade. We also have a board, of course, spearheaded by Jonas Ehinger, who's our chairman. He's also the CEO of Gateway. He's joined by John, Ulla-Britt, and Anders, all of them with vast international experience from startups to larger company. And last but not least, of course, we have Magnus Jonsson, who's also the chairman of PowerCell. So why should you invest in Insplorion? Well, it gives you key exposure to a tremendous opportunity of hydrogen. This is a very exciting field. And it does so, actually, without having to invest tons and tons of money into an expensive infrastructure product. We provide shovels, you can say. Sensors will be needed across the whole value chain. And we have a unique technology with clear benefits that they can address these things. We've been around for some time. We've built up know-how and IP and experience in this. And as of today, we have 2 customer pilots on the hydrogen side. We have significant customer interest, as we can't talk about all of them. But we also have ongoing instrument sales. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johan.
Thank you. So it's 2, not 4.
I've got that now. Excellent.
Focus is good.
Yes. So in moving forward, what challenges do you see in terms of logistics? Because you need a lot of materials coming in. There are alloys that might be difficult to source.
We don't see that as a big concern at the moment. Once we get into bigger volumes, obviously that can be of concern. It's not something that we foresee at the moment, however.
You mentioned collaboration.
Yes.
How important is this for you to succeed? And what are the key players here for you?
It's very important. If you think about, also productification at the end, but also the commercial route. And if you think of a big company, you're building, let's say green steel, or someone where you build a large electrolyzer. Where do you want to buy your sensors from? Well, you typically want to buy your sensors from, a larger company with a brand, etc. So, the priority for us is to create partnerships with those type of companies that can bring the products all the way out there to the customers.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you.
I think so too.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Johan, and best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.